The book of Romans. Imagine standing in a courtroom. The judge is ready to deliver a verdict, and every piece of evidence proves you're guilty. Suddenly, someone steps in, pays your penalty, and declares you free. That's the heart of the message in Romans, the greatest declaration of God's grace and righteousness ever written. The book of Romans is a letter written by the Apostle Paul around AD 57 while he was in Corinth. Unlike his other letters, Paul wrote to a church he had never visited, believers in Rome, the center of the ancient world. His goal wasn't to correct problems, but to teach clearly what the gospel really means and how it changes lives. Paul wanted to strengthen their faith, prepare for his visit, and unite both Jewish and Gentile believers around one powerful truth, that salvation is by grace, through faith in Jesus Christ. Romans explain why we need salvation, how God provides it, and how we live it out. Paul begins by showing that all people, Jews and Gentiles alike, are guilty of sin and stand condemned before a holy God. But then comes the good news. The righteous will live by faith. Romans 1:17. Through faith in Jesus, sinners are justified, declared righteous, not by works, but by God's grace. Sanctification. The practical outworking of salvation in the believer's life, demonstrating God's righteousness through transformed living. Chapters 1 through 8 focus on faith, explaining justification and sanctification, how believers are freed from sin's penalty and empowered to live new lives. Chapters 9 through 11 show hope, revealing God's plan for Israel and the nations. Chapters 12 to 16 teach love, showing how faith works out in practical Christian living, serving, forgiving, and walking humbly. Romans isn't just theology, it's transformation. It's been called the purest gospel, the daily bread of the soul. This letter has changed lives throughout history, from St. Augustine to Martin Luther to John Wesley, all of whom were deeply moved by its truth. Paul's message cuts through pride and guilt alike. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, but are justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus. Romans 3:23 to 24. Romans show us that no one is beyond God's reach, that his grace covers the deepest guilt and restores the most broken hearts. For us today, Romans means freedom. It teaches us that our relationship with God isn't based on performance, but on faith in Christ alone. Like that courtroom scene, the penalty has been paid, not by us, but by Jesus. That's why Paul could boldly say, "There is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus." Romans 8:1. The book of Romans is more than a letter. It's an invitation to live in the freedom, faith, and love of God's righteousness.